So I get told often about how lucky I am. Lovely. I also get to hear about equality. Now, let me tell you something about equality. I've seen plenty of pictures from men on my Facebook that have women in bikinis. I also have women who are friends with me on my Facebook who complain about all the pictures of women in bikinis. Meanwhile, I don't go posting up a bunch of pictures of women in bikinis. Matter of fact, I've posted up more pictures of Jason Momoa without a shirt. Why is this? Because it's magically okay. It's magically okay the other way around. It's not equality. If a woman is going to complain about half naked women, as they claim, half naked women being posted on Facebook, meanwhile, you go to the swimming pool, well, you're going to see them half naked women there, aren't you? And somehow this makes all men pigs, according to many of the posts that I read. Meanwhile, it seems that the women who are complaining the most about how men are superficial are the same ones posting up pictures of Jason Momoa, or the same ones posting up pictures of firemen with no shirt on, and in some cases, no pants on, with captions that say things like, I wish my house would burn down. Ew, that ain't okay. When it comes to equality, if you want special treatment, you're not after equality. If you're going to say that it's okay for women to hit men because men are stronger than women, you're wrong. You are wrong. Perhaps on average, but very few of us are average. Then there's the part about how we get told that men are superficial and all they want is looks. There's a lot of women posting up on Facebook and YouTube and TikTok all sorts of racist crap that is harmful, but it's socially acceptable because it's women doing it. If men do those things, well, we've gotten to see, most of us have gotten to see men come back from Facebook bans or start a new YouTube channel because something that they said was twisted into something that it wasn't. We're told that it's not okay for us to be superficial by people who are being superficial. We get told, well, this is what a perfect man is, this is what a good man is, this is what a real man is. Men are constantly being told by women what a real man is, what a good man is. But we're not allowed to speak up at all about what a good woman is, or what a bad woman is, or what an abusive woman is. We're not allowed to say that we like a woman's legs, or her breasts, or her butt. But a woman can say how she likes our legs, or our six pack, or our biceps, or our buttocks. A man is told how superficial he is by women who refuse to date a man who is under 6 feet tall. Well, I can't date a guy who's shorter than me. That's not a real man. Are you sure that the height of a man determines whether or not he's a good man, whether or not he's a real man? How about his looks? You're allowed to judge men by their looks. You guys can go through the Natalie situation and you can realize that, well, most people made their decision based on gender and looks. While it's been proven that Natalie Bollinger, the things that she was pretending was slander from me, Well, those things are not slander. Her own death report, her own autopsy report shows the things that I said were true. How much heroin was in her system when she died? A lot. But people want to say, oh, she's so pretty, that poor girl. She's so pretty. She's so pretty. She's so pretty. You're so ugly. You must be a child molester. That's what I get. You must be a child molester. You know, you probably couldn't get a woman to have sex with you if you paid her. You know, you look like a chimo. You look like a rapist. Really? Really? You going to judge a book by its cover? You going to assume that because I'm a male, I must be this monster? You have to pretend that I'm this monster. Meanwhile, there are a lot of women out there who are the monster you pretend that I am. But you let them get away with actually being these monsters. But you punish me because you want to pretend that I'm this monster. This is not equality. The reason that I fought so hard, especially in Chapel, Nebraska, for black people's rights is because I've been denied those rights myself my entire life. See, I grew up in the system. I grew up mostly with minorities. I got dropped off at 15 years old in Chapel, Nebraska, and I got dropped off out of the system at 18 years old. 18. Dropped off on the streets, had a t-shirt, a pair of pants, and one shoe. I didn't have an ID. I didn't have a birth certificate. Didn't have a driver's license. Didn't have a social security card. And it took me literally years to get those things because you can't get a social security card without a birth certificate and an ID. You can't get an ID without a birth certificate and a social security card. You can't get a birth certificate without a social security card and an ID. I mean, you need 2 forms to get the third form, and you have 0. Now we get told that we're stronger than women, and that makes it magically okay for women to physically assault us. No, physical assault is wrong. It's wrong. Desiree, she's a woman I know who has beaten up many, many, many men. She is stronger than most of the guys I know. She is more violent than most of the guys I know. But because it doesn't fit your bias, you're going to pretend that people like her don't exist. They must be a figment of my imagination. What was that MMA fighter lady's name? Ronda Rousey, something like that. How many guys do you think could actually beat her up? Let's say she decided that she was going to get drunk and she was going to beat the shit out of your drunk ass at a party. Do you really think that you would stand a chance against a seasoned fighter, regardless of their gender? Probably not. Ronda Rousey, she's buff. She's got some big muscles. Now, there's a lot of situations where we pretend it's okay and we try to laugh it off when it happens to a man. I'm going to post up a link here, and it's only a couple of minutes long. Let's see. I believe this is it. This is it. Now, there's quite a few of them. Let's see. I'm looking for the one in specific that shows how this man was treated. There was a woman who walked up to him and she grabbed a hold of his chest. Now, mind you, this is at Disneyland. There's a bunch of kids. This is something that obviously is Not appropriate if you were to do it to a woman, but it's magically okay when it happens to a man. It is okay for her to inappropriately grope this man. Just not okay. Now, there's on one hand that he does have a part to play. He's playing a character, and well, him playing that character doesn't make it okay to sexually assault him, which is exactly what this woman did. See, copy link address. We'll post it up here. Is this appropriate? I want you to watch this and tell me whether or not you believe it is appropriate. Now, some of you might say, oh, well, that's no big thing. Women have to deal with worse every day. That may be true. Does that make it okay? Does it make it okay? See, many of you know that I have an issue with the situation that happened with Zaid Atkinson. Zaid Atkinson is not at fault for his victimization. And just because these things happen to homeless people every single day does not make what happened to Zaid Atkinson okay. It doesn't magically make what the Boulder Police Department did to him acceptable. Now, the issue that I have with Zaid in particular is the narrative that he decided to sell. He showed his cards, he showed his hand, he showed his apparent lack of morality. You see, although something was done wrong to him, he wanted to sell a false narrative. Now, he obviously, if you listen to the things that he said before BLM had to put their stamp on it, the thing is that he made it abundantly clear that he knows that these things are happening specifically to the poor, that it's not just black people this is happening to. Now, to this day, I am glad that he got paid. He got paid $125,000 for the abuse that he took. But compared with the homeless, he was not abused. If you're going to set them side by side, absolutely. If you're going to set them side by side and compare Zaid Atkinson with a garden variety homeless person, Zaid Atkinson got off easy. And I don't have any qualms with saying that. Now, just because he got off easy, does that make it okay? No, it doesn't. It does not make it okay. It was still wrong. It was wrong of Boulder Police Department to target him the way that they did. They assumed that he was homeless and they did horrible things to him. Now, there were Boulder Police Department, Boulder officers who are likely harassing homeless people right this moment, possibly, or even, I should say, probably assaulting homeless people in Boulder, Colorado right this moment. If Zaid Atkinson had been completely honest and stuck with the truth, he could have done something about the fact that these things happen to the homeless of Boulder, Colorado every single day. But he wanted to sell a false narrative, and magically it's all right. Now, whether he sells a false narrative about his abuse or not, the fact is he was abused. Just like Ventus, when he was calling his ex-girlfriend Beatrice, and he was telling her about the fact that in New Year's of last year, well, a grown man touched his genitalia and his backside, as well as touching another friend of his inappropriately. And Ventus was pretty shook up about it. And when he called up Beatrice, what did she tell him? The same thing that a lot of other people told him. Oh, well, you should, what was it that they said? You should, something to the effect that he should be glad that a man liked him enough to do that. Also, and Beatrice, I got to hear the conversation with her. She said, it's not a big deal. He groped you. women have to go through this all the time. Well, that may be true. There are plenty of men who have to go through it all the time. Does that make it less traumatizing or less traumatic because it's a male? The argument there is, well, very similar to when I bring up being raped in Africa. See, things are worse elsewhere is a terrible excuse for not making things better here. If somebody is raped in Africa, there is a chance that they will be mutilated, have their genitalia sliced up, be forced into a stack of tires, and be burned alive in those tires after being raped. Does that make it okay to rape people over here because you didn't stuff them in a tire or mutilate their genitalia? No, it doesn't make it okay. And I'm not going to look away from those crimes just because those people didn't get the worst that they could have gotten. I'm not going to pretend that it's okay to rape a human being in the United States for any reason. Rape is never okay, ever. It doesn't matter if it's a man. It is not okay to molest another human being. If you touch them inappropriately and they don't like it, you need to stop. Now, obviously, there are situations where you don't know if they're going to like it or not. I know that I've seen many, many women who are drunk at parties walk up to a guy that they like and literally grab his crotch. And if he says, I don't like that, well, she might not take no for an answer and oftentimes will not. And if he makes her take no for an answer, being as he either A, leaves the situation entirely, or B, goes and hangs out with a group of people who will protect him from being groped, well, then the situation for him is somewhat remedied. Whereas if it's a woman, if it happens once, if a man goes up to a woman and does that, I have seen many women who, if it's an attractive man who comes up and does it, it's magically okay. And she'll be making out with him and trying to make babies by the end of the night. If it's an unattractive male who does this, well, she's on the phone calling the cops. And I'm not saying that it's okay for this man to go up and grope her. What I'm saying is that it's wrong regardless of who you are. Whether you're good looking or not, wrong is wrong. Here in the United States, what we are teaching our children is that wrong is entirely dependent upon the looks. If he's a good looking guy, he can get away with it. If she's a good looking woman, she can get away with it. If he's fat and ugly, well, he can go to prison over your opinion. He doesn't even have to touch you. He can look your general direction, and you, as a woman, say, I feel uncomfortable with him looking in my direction, and magically he is some sort of a horrible, horrible monster. Michaela Small Town Babe wrote, Hi, Bestie. She also wrote, I agree 110%. It's good to have you, Miss Michaela. When it comes to equality, the thing that makes it equality is that it's the same for you and for me. Equality at work, that means you and I are treated the same. It means that we are paid the same. It means that we have the same expectations on us by our employers. That is equality. Now, if you are not capable of doing the work, don't get the job. I'll give you an example of UPS. Now, I don't know if it's 50 pounds or 70 pounds, but it used to be that if you wanted to work for UPS, you had to be able to lift a certain amount of pounds. And it wasn't for a long period of time. You just got to be able to, basically enough time to carry it to somebody's porch or to lift it up and set it on a, God, what do they call that thing? A dolly. That's what it's called. Now, surprisingly, there's a lot of men and women who are incapable of that. I know that for me, being able to bench press 120 pounds was a lot of weight for me. I knew women in high school who could bench press 120 pretty easily. Now, if you are not capable of doing the job, whether you're a male or a female, if you don't have the physical strength for that job, you just simply don't have the physical strength for it. Now, if you don't have the physical strength to lift 50 pounds, should we hire somebody who is capable of lifting that 50 pounds to help you? Well, if we're going to hire that person who can lift 50 pounds to help you, we don't actually need you. We're just going to hire the person who can lift 50 pounds, regardless of their gender. Now, if that bars some women from that position, that's okay because it bars some men from that position. Most guys are not 6 feet tall. Wait, that's not true, is it? The average man in the United States is over 6 feet tall now. I'm 5'9", so I'm 3 inches below average. That doesn't seem like a lot, but most women in the United States complain about a man who is less than 6 feet tall. Most. I mean, you got no idea how many studies there have done and how many research studies, I should state, in specific about these situations. Now, we can pretend like all men are 6'2" and can bench press 250 pounds, and all females are 5'2" and can barely bench press a mouse or a gerbil or a hamster. That's just not the case. Then there's the men are more superior when it comes to athletics. Well, I'm not. I've lost plenty of basketball games with women because I'm not any good at basketball. I didn't play the basketball game because I wanted to win. I played because it was taking part. Like in high school, for example, when we played basketball, it wasn't a men's basketball and a women's basketball, not if we were in there for PE. You were all playing basketball. When it came to the way that you interacted with other people, yeah, you had to pay attention to the way that you played with those girls. You had to make sure that you gave them a little bit more space than you would give a man. You don't crowd them the way that you would a man, because if you accidentally touch them on the hiney or you accidentally touch them on the chest, it's going to be the end of the world, or potentially the end of the world, depending on who you are. If it's somebody like me, when I was in high school, I wasn't good looking. I was also covered in pimples. Before I was covered in pimples, I was fat. If I accidentally touched somebody, I could have gotten in a lot of trouble for it. So I just tried not to participate. If we were playing basketball and I was supposed to be covering a girl, well, she was probably going to make a lot of baskets because I'm not going to get close enough to accidentally touch her because I am scared shitless of getting in trouble over a woman's opinion, let alone if I accidentally touch her. Now, is it that girl on the basketball court? Is it her fault that I'm afraid of her? No, it's not. It's the way that I've been treated by women, not specifically her, but a great many women in my lifetime, as if I were the plague, as if I must be a terrible person because I'm not good looking, because I'm not tall. And I'm going to let y'all on a big secret. I do not have a big penis. I don't. I'm not stacked. I'm not huge. Now, there's a lot of women out there who want to complain and be hateful because, well, men look at their chest. My eyes are up here. You know, when I walked around Boulder, Colorado, or Chapel, Nebraska for that matter, without a shirt on, most of the women that I interacted with didn't even realize that I had eyes. I really did have a nice six pack. Matter of fact, I had it when I went into prison at the beginning of this year. I got a little bit of a tank now. I'm kind of enjoying it. If I walk down the street today and I got my belly hanging out, women are a lot more likely to look me in the eyeballs when they talk to me. Equality means that it's the same for both of us. Equality means that if you are at work and a woman comes up to you and grabs a hold of your chest, she has literally sexually assaulted you. The way that Gaston feller talked to that woman, that was a lot nicer than he should have talked to her. He shouldn't have talked to her at all. First thing he should have done is get on the phone and call 911. If it's wrong for a man to do it to a woman, it is equally wrong to do it to a man. If it is wrong for a man to do, it is equally wrong for a woman to do. If it is wrong for a woman to do, it is equally wrong for a man to do. Now, we've gotten to see a lot of stuff on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok about these jokes. They're considered practical jokes when in reality it's crying wolf sexism straight up for entertainment. Crying wolf for entertainment, like this TikTok challenge where you go in the bathroom and start crying and pretend it's the end of the world well, for entertainment. You're going to do that to other human beings because it entertains you. That's disgusting. Meanwhile, many of these TikTok challenges are inappropriate. Most of them are sexist. And then we've got women who are doing exactly what it is that we're told that it's men's fault for. There a lot of women, let me give you an example. The outfit change challenge, right? Why aren't you in uniform? So this woman comes out and she's wearing a nurse's outfit. I don't mean like a sexy nurse. I mean like actually you go to the hospital, this is how the nurses are dressed. And it says, why aren't you in uniform? And then all of a sudden she's in a skimpy French maid outfit. Obviously, it's not a French maid outfit. It's made for someone's fetish. So the uniform is what, a sex worker's uniform? Is that what this is selling? Pretty much. It's not a maid's outfit. It's a sexy maid outfit. You notice the word sex is in that, obviously. If you don't want people to look at you sexually, don't dress sexually. Don't dress to be sexy if you don't want people to look at you and think sexy. SEX is in that word. Now, a lot of guys talk about how a woman is stacked. Man, she's stacked. They're talking about the upper chest. When a woman talks about a man being stacked, sometimes it's muscles, but sometimes it's his genitalia. Now we've got this thing going on with sweatpants. There's a lot of women who are posting up about how they love a man in sweatpants, but only if he fills it out. Now, fill it out is obviously code, just in case children are watching this, for you know what, because they've used a lot of different terminology for it. But basically, if you can't see a man's bulge when he's wearing the sweatpants, you're not interested. Those sweatpants aren't as sexy as you were originally saying unless he fills them out. So the word sexy women are using in the same way for the same thing. Sex is the issue here. A man is not allowed to tell a woman no without taking consequences. If I turn a woman down like I did with Crystal Beauchamp, by the way, I didn't just turn her down once. I rescued her when she was drunk on 3 different occasions. And lots of people said, dude, you should have just left her be. Girls get drunk for the same reason the guys get drunk. They want to get laid. I didn't get drunk to get laid. I got drunk a lot in my youth, but never because I wanted to get laid. I drank because I wanted to fit in. This is Chapel, Nebraska. Most of these kids are alcoholics before they even get out of high school. Most of them have parents who are alcoholics and grandparents who are alcoholics. Their great grandparents were alcoholics. Nebraska just produces a shit ton of alcoholics. If you want to fit in with alcoholics, you got to do the alcohol. If all your friends in high school turn into meth heads, you got two choices. You can ditch all your friends or you can become a meth head. If all your friends are alcoholics, you got two choices. You can ditch your friends or you can become an alcoholic. That's how it is. It's not how I want it to be, but it is a fact. Me stating that it is a fact doesn't mean that I agree with it. It doesn't mean that I encourage it. It doesn't mean that I'm okay with it. It's that that's the way that it is. A lot of the girls that I went to high school with lost their virginities to their dads. Most of those dads never got into any trouble for it. A lot of it because those girls were afraid to come forward. And a lot of those girls were afraid to come forward because they got to see what happened to other people who spoke up. When you say in western Nebraska, a place like Chapel, Nebraska, you say, hey, my dad raped me. They send you to a mental institution. That is their protocol here. Dad raped you? You're going to an institution. You're going to be injected with drugs. You're going to be called bipolar. And you're going to miss all of your friends that you used to get to go hang out with, that you used to laugh and make jokes with. Because your dad raped you, you don't get to see your friends. And the police usually give you a choice. You can either stay with your abuser or they can lock you up. It's not much of a choice, is it? Many of these girls, they want the being raped by their dad to stop so badly that they say, hey, you can lock me up. I'll go into the system. It's better than being raped by my dad. Then they get raped in the system. They get shoved full of drugs in the system. They get diagnosed with things that aren't actually things that are wrong with them. When they get more pills, they get more depressed because many of those pills, if you don't have that problem, the pills make it worse. If your depression is situational and not chemical, and they give you, well, chemicals to try to remedy it, most of the time those chemicals don't make you happy. They will make you depressed. You will now have a chemical problem, and you might actually commit suicide. When I speak about the issues that we're having to go through, I don't just talk about men's issues. I don't just talk about women's issues. I did notice that when I talk about women's issues, the subscribers on my channel, it goes up. When I talk about men's issues, the subscribers on my channel go down. Less and less and less and less. You know what? I'm fine with that. Because it helps to prove my point. Men don't mean anything to our society. We exist solely, especially white men, exist solely to take the blame for everything that is wrong in everyone's life. One of these videos today, this woman was complaining. I think her profile is like something so pretty or some crap like that. She's complaining that her sugar daddy kicked her out. Now, she's calling him a sugar daddy. She's not saying my boyfriend. She's not saying my ex boyfriend. She's not saying my husband. She's saying my sugar daddy. And she's saying, this is why you don't date a sugar daddy. This is why you don't date somebody who's older than you. Most of the women I know will not date somebody who's younger than them, even if it's only by a couple of months, because then somehow he's below them. That's messed up. But then you treat a man who dates a woman who's younger than him like he's some sort of a sicko pervert. There's a big difference between a 20-year-old Tim Beeson dating a 14-year-old Natalie Bollinger and my mom getting married to my stepdad And there's a 9-year difference between the two because she didn't marry my stepdad when he was 13. She didn't marry my stepdad when he was 21. I believe, and I could be wrong about this, but I think Scott was 28 when my mom and he got married. So that would have made her 37. I could be wrong about that. But the thing is that we are dealing with an entirely sexist society that has decided that it is okay for women to be sexist and it is okay to blame all of it on men. It is always men's fault. There is nothing that a man can do except take the abuse. There is no other recourse for men anymore. Now we've got these women on TikTok shaking their backside, showing up and showing as little clothing as possible. And it's okay for them to objectionalize themselves that way. It's okay for them to put themselves out there for men to stare at. But if a man does stare, he's a bad man, right? Meanwhile, if Jason Momoa is out there without a shirt, you're allowed to drool over him. You're allowed to whine, you're allowed to pine. Oh, why can't I get a man like that? Dear Lord, send me a Jason Momoa. Well, that ain't gonna work. There's only one of him. How many of y'all ladies, if you could, would trade your man in for somebody who looked like Jason Momoa? Probably more of you than are willing to admit it. Now, then there's the no means no. Let me tell you something. I did ask out a lot of women growing up, a lot more than anybody else I knew because I kept getting the word no. Let me tell you how many times I asked out Jessica Martindale. Mind you, William Barr is her husband. This is one of the people that I have a major issue with. I asked Jessica Martindale out once, and she said no, and that was the end of it. Guess how much I whined and pined because I wasn't with her? I didn't. Guess how many times I went over there and tried to convince her that she made the wrong decision by telling me no? It never happened. See, here's the thing. I didn't just have a crush on Jessica Martindale. I was friends with her family before I ever had a crush. Out of the whole family, Jessica Martindale is the only one that wasn't drop dead gorgeous. She had a big old gap between her teeth. She was a little heavier set. But I had a crush on her because of how she treated me. And when she said no, I was fine with it. You know, when I asked out, and mind you, she's not the only woman I asked out in this town. I did ask out quite a few people. I always got a no. And when I asked a woman out and she said no, I never asked her again. I'm not going to chase you. I'm not going to pursue you. Now we've got all of this stuff on Facebook saying, oh, well, you know, if you really like a woman, just let her know. You know, she might say no to begin with, but keep it up. Eventually she'll realize blah, 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 blah. And this is coming from women, you know, saying, hey, you should do this and you should do that. You know, just let her know that you like her. If you keep it consistent, eventually she'll give you a chance. But then we've got a lot of this other stuff that we're seeing now that is just the opposite. Like, you know, when a woman says no, she doesn't want to date you, that means no. Some of these women are complaining that, well, there was a man who had a crush on them and wanted to have sex with them, and these women didn't want to have sex. But they were pressured and then they were pressured and they were basically bullied, some of them by their friends, to have sex with this person, and so they gave in. It's wrong. It's wrong to do that to a woman. It's wrong to do that to your friend. It's wrong to pressure somebody to have sex with somebody else, especially when they don't want to. But you know what? It's not just wrong to do this to men, or not just wrong to do this to women. It's also wrong to do this to men. It's wrong when When a man tells you about being sexually assaulted by a woman, and that could be anything from, well, like what Gaston had to put up with that woman grabbing a hold of his chest, or grabbing a hold of your butt, or grabbing a hold of your genitalia. This is not appropriate. This is sexual assault. But we're told as men that we should be happy about it. We should just be happy that somebody is even willing to touch our genitalia. Like, even though we are not entirely sexually motivated, we're treated like we are supposed to be, and then we're treated like we're not supposed to be. We're not supposed to be sexually oriented. If we're attracted to a woman, we're supposed to pretend that we don't have any sexual interest in her. Otherwise, we're bad, especially if we're not good looking. If you're a good looking guy, I mean, Josh Martindale, all right, I've seen him flirt with women. He's shameless and it works. Most of the time, he didn't even have to be shameless because women would come up to him and volunteer how good looking he is or how much they wanted to, and then insert sexual favor, whatever sexual favor you want to put in there, because that's literally what they're offering him. They're not using sly words or trying to beat around the bush. They're straight up about it. And I've had a lot of women tell me, and this is one of the things with Jamie that was really bugging me. She said, you know, I said, if a woman is interested in me, if she's straightforward about it, I'll give her a chance. If she wants to have sex with me and she says straight up that she wants to have sex with me, at least I'll know that that's what she wants. And Jamie told me, well, see, here's the thing, Sean, a woman can't do that or she's a hoe. So you're never going to find a woman to do that. And then she literally did that to at least 6 men in front of me, throwing herself at them like a shameless hoe, as she put it. So it's okay, just not okay with me. With me, it was about leading me on and getting me to believe that she had an interest in me so that I would take care of her kid and fix her things at her house. Well, here's the thing. She's my friend. She was my best friend at the time, and she'd been my friend for years. She didn't need to pretend like she was interested in me sexually in order to get any of that out of me. None of it. But of course, we have this society thing where men are supposed to be sexual creatures, and if they turn a woman down, it's okay for a woman to destroy their lives over this. And yes, there were 3 different occasions where I almost lost my virginity to Jamie, and all 3 of them ended up being messed up situations. One of them, Jackie McKenzie got into a fight with her boyfriend. Me and Jamie had it planned out that we were going to have sex. Well, Jackie came over. She was also fucked up out of her mind on methamphetamines, talking 400 miles an hour. I've got a lot of pent up tension at this point, so I spent the night scrubbing the bathtub until the lime that was caked onto the inside of the bathtub was completely gone. That bathtub was probably the cleanest bathtub in town. There was another time where, see, Jamie got sick and tired of me telling her, you know what? If I'm not good enough for you when you're sober, you can't have me when you're drunk. Because she kept on getting drunk, throwing herself at me like a $2 hooker, and I wouldn't have sex with her. And part of this came from her rules. Well, if a man has sex with a woman who's drunk, then it's rape. But then she didn't consider it rape when she had sex with other people while she was drunk. But I, being the only guy who stuck to those rules, I didn't have sex with her while she was drunk. So one night, she tells me she's sober. She hasn't had anything to drink. She tells me, all right, Sean, liquid courage. I want to have sex. I'm going to get drunk, and then we're going to have sex. So she got drunk. She was dancing around in the street outside of her trailer with her shirt off. She came back into the house. She got stripped down to everything except for her underwear. I had to go to the bathroom, and guess what? I zipped myself up and I was bleeding all over the place. It was not pleasant. I wrapped it up in toilet paper, and I went out to explain to Jamie what had happened, And she was saying if you were any slower, you'd be the Virgin Mary. I just didn't have it in me to tell her and explain to her that I'd zipped up my equipment. Now, meanwhile, I didn't want to have sex with her to begin with. It was a pressure thing. It was a this is what you're supposed to do thing. It's a this is what is expected of you thing. Well, it shouldn't have been expected of me. Just like when a woman sexually assaults a man, it should not be expected of him to enjoy it. How many of you women enjoy being sexually molested? Oh, you don't enjoy being sexually molested? Then why should I? Not why would I, it's why should I? Why does our society expect me to be thankful for being sexually assaulted? Why do so many women, like Beatrice in the situation with Ventus, expect a man to be fine with being sexually assaulted? Why is it why is it wrong to sexually assault a woman but not wrong to sexually assault a man? Because in my personal opinion, assault is wrong. Assaulting a man is wrong. Assaulting a woman is wrong. Assaulting a child is wrong, regardless of your age or gender. That doesn't just go for sexual assault, that is also physical assault. Equality means that it's the same for all of us. That's what equality means. We're not all the same, though. If you're going to make laws about the strength that a man has over a woman, in order to hobble men, keep in mind that you're hobbling all men, not just the men who are physically stronger than women. Meanwhile, you're not hobbling any of the women who are physically stronger than most men in doing so. So, how is it equality? If you're going to say that it's okay to victimize men, but it's not okay to victimize women, you are what's wrong with the world. If you're going to say that it's okay to be racist against white people, but it's wrong to be racist against black people, you are what's wrong with this world. Racism is wrong. Sexism is wrong. And the biggest difference that I see between all of us is not our skin color, it is not our gender, it is what we are taught about our skin colors and our gender. Like me, because I was born as a white man, I'm supposed to be ashamed of myself for existing. I'm supposed to be ashamed of myself for existing as a white person because this is what society teaches me. I am taught that I am supposed to be apologetic for being born with genitalia that I was born with. That's not okay. That also brings me to another subject. Why is it that people can get a job at CU and it'll pay for a sex change? But if you get cancer, you're SOL. If your kid gets cancer, you're SOL. Why is gender reassignment covered by insurance? If you were born with a vagina and you want a penis, it's not life threatening. If you were born with a penis and you want a vagina, that's not life threatening. But if you got cancer, that's life threatening. If you got leukemia, that's life threatening. I'm not against people getting a gender reassignment. I'm against spending money on gender reassignment while there are children dying. If your insurance can cover gender reassignment, it should cover leukemia.